Hello everybody, this is Havoc and welcome back to another unit overview for the Ancient Empires mod. Now before we get started, I have a couple of things that I would like to say. First off, thank you for the immense support and views and feedback that I've gotten on the Roman Empire and the Roman Republic unit overviews. Those have been the two most popular ones, and we've had a lot of positive feedback coming from that helps really showcase the extent of what can be done with this mod. And another thing on the on the subject of the Roman Empire, Will, who was one of the devs of the Ancient Empires mod, he commented on my last video and said, dude, just FYI, the units that were presented in the custom battles multiplayer section for the Roman Empire, that's all that we could fit for custom battles and multiplayer. The campaign will have every single unit, every single legionary, every single auxiliary unit available to us, which is upwards of 10 times the amount that were in the custom and multiplayer battles. So in essence, you're looking at close to 400 or more unique units for the Roman Empire. That's massive to me, to be honest. That's just absolutely huge. The amount of units just in the... And of course, you know, the Roman Empire is going to get the most treatment. It's the most popular faction. Probably always will be for the majority. But over 400 units for the Roman Empire alone is absolutely unreal. It means you're going to have a lot of fun customizing those armies in the campaign. You're just going to have a lot of fun with this mod. Now, the mod that you are seeing, the video that you're looking at right now, is actually an update. We just received an update yesterday, and it has some balancing, some different things in it, so hopefully we'll see how those get to work. I haven't tested it out just yet, but basically, it also adds some naval units for the Roman Empire, but those have not been fleshed out at all. So I'm not even going to do a video on the naval units until those have been good. There are some more videos that I'm going to do that are not just unit overviews, so be sure to look out for those. But let's get down to it. You know, 2 or 3 minutes into this video, I'm finally getting to the faction we're going to talk about today. We are going to go over the Ptolemaic kingdom. This is, of course, the Egyptian faction, even though it is... You know, it is the Ptolemy family as taken over after Alexander has died. So they control most of Egypt. So they're going to have, this is one of the main factions. This faction has very much been fleshed out and has been filled in. And so we're going to get right down into it and see just all what they have. It's not to the extent of the Roman Empire or even the Roman Republic, but it's still a rather deep roster that the Ptolemaic kingdom has. And let's dive right on in. We have 4 generals. We have our Royal Sword Bearer. I always forget to turn unit info on. Royal Sword Bearers. These guys have excellent morale, poor armor value. Their charge value really isn't all that great. I guess it is for a melee unit. Again, for a general, their main perks is they have a high morale, they have good melee offense, and a good melee defense, even though their armor value is relatively low. We have Royal Spear Bearers. These guys are going to be your more defensive unit, obviously. Their melee offense is, it's okay. Their melee defense is very high, and so is their morale. We have Agema Pikemen. These guys are really good pikemen units. They don't have a charge value of hardly anything. Of course, they're pikemen. They're not really meant to be used as that. Their offense and defense isn't that great. Their armor value is high, and so is their morale. So they're really meant to hold the line, to be able to stay that, inspire their allies, and really just do some work. And then last but not least, we have Agema Cavalry. These guys have a massive charge value of 18. Their offense and defense is subpar. Their armor value is pretty high, and of course they have a very high morale rating. Honestly, I would stick to the Agema Cav unless you just had some other reason to use some infantry. Go down to Spearmen. We have quite a few Spearmen options, which is really nice. We have quite a few Pike, but we'll get down to that in a second. We have Machimoy Spearmen. These guys are just going to be your cheap, down-to-earth spearmen. They have not great charge value, and their offense isn't that great. Their defense is actually pretty stinking high, even though their armor value isn't that great. and they have a decent morale rating, definitely higher than some of the other spear units we've seen in other factions. We have Mercenary through Thureophori. I hate saying these kinds of words because I'm awful at it. These guys have a range. They have a very low ammunition. Their ranged offense is still pretty high, though. Their missile range is actually pretty high. They have a very high melee defense and a pretty decent morale for a low tier unit. They actually will probably hold pretty steady. Let's take a look at some of their things. They are resistant to fatigue. They can hide in shrub, scrub, and forest, which is helpful. They are disciplined, which means they're less likely to rout, and they have an expert charge defense. So while these units are low tier, they're mercenary units and they are going to hold out pretty well. A very good way to fill your roster with some cheap units if you feel the need. Next, we have Judean infantry. These guys have a decent morale, about 8. That's not too bad. Their armor value is actually decently high for a low tier spear unit. They have melee offense isn't that great, but again, their melee defense is pretty solid, which is always good to have. These guys are definitely going to be some good defensive units to use to really hold the line, maybe soak up some units to be able to hammer and anvil. We have Peltasts from the late period. Now, I'm going to be contradicted on this, and that's alright. I tried looking it up, and I haven't really found a whole lot. But I believe Peltasts, because they've always been I've always thought of Peltasts as just ranged units that just throw spears. They're skirmisher infantry. But I think Peltasts actually refers to the type of shields that they have. So if I'm wrong, correct me please, because I want to be right with this stuff. But again, I couldn't really find a whole lot. So these guys have a decent charge value. Their melee defense and melee offense is actually pretty high for, I guess they're tier 3, even though, again, tiers don't matter all that much. They are late spear infantry, which is probably the reason why they have such a high morale and such a good melee offense and melee defense. Next up, we have Mercenary Thorakitai. We have seen these guys a lot. These mercenaries are prevalent throughout all of, apparently, the Mediterranean. And any kind of Greek and Romans are typically have them. Any kind of Greek influence units or factions will pretty much have a unit of Thorakitai in there at some point. Their charge value is not that great. They do have a very high armor value. Their morale is pretty decent. Their melee defense is, of course, going to be very high. Last but not least, we have Royal Spearbearers, which again is one of the general units, which means it has a cap of 3 units, and that includes the general. Which is another reason why I would prefer to go to the Agema Cav as a general rather than use up a unit of these elite Royal Spearbearers and use one of your general slots. So their melee offense is actually pretty high. Their melee defense is where they really kick into action, and of course they have a very good morale rating. Alright, we're going to knock it down to Pike Infantry. Pike Infantry are probably some of the best units that I love playing with, simply because they look really, really good. And I know that's not a reason to play, but it is a reason. I mean, a lot of you will relate that it just looks so glorious to have that huge line of pikes with the staggered spears. I just love seeing it when they fall down and get into place, and just, oh, I just love all of them. Anyways, so there's 5 sets of pike infantry with the Ptolemaic Kingdom. We have Libyan pikemen. Now, these guys are not going to be very good at all. They're actually, for me, they seem pretty expensive considering the stats. You could just go spear infantry and get a lot more, but regardless, you need some light pike. Use them, I guess. They have no charge value whatsoever. They have a less than good morale, melee offense. Their melee defense isn't even really that great. Their armor value is only at 5, and the morale is at 5, which is still pretty darn low. Next up, we have Makamoy pikemen. They have a 1 charge value. So they're, again, pike are not meant to charge. They're meant to slowly walk forward. They're meant to hold the line and use those pikes to their advantage. So that's definitely why they will not have a good charge rating. They have a melee offense of 4, melee defense of 8, armor value of 7, which really isn't that bad, and a morale of 8. Next up, we have the Chlorokai. I'm going to, again, so many weird names. Chlorokai, pikemen. These guys are going to be heavy pike infantry. Again, that charge value is not going to be there at all. Their melee offense and defense really isn't that bad. Their armor value at 8 is okay for a tier 2, and the morale is actually decently high, which will actually be a reason to use them if you really needed to. But honestly, the I would honestly go probably with McAmoy because they are going to be, I don't know. It depends. I don't like using low-tier pikemen regardless because it's a little iffy for me. Next, we have our Peltasts. Again, Peltasts are just, there's something about them that makes them all the same, even though they're different types of units. These guys are going to be pretty stinking good. They do have a decent charge value, especially for pike infantry. Their melee offense is decently high. Their melee defense is pretty good. Their armor value is at 8, which is pretty average. But they do have a pretty high morale rating, so they are going to hold the line. I do believe they inspire their allies. They do. So that's another benefit that they have. They are immune to fear as well, which is always a positive. And they, of course, have expert charge defense. Last but not least, your elitist of the elite Agema pikemen. These guys are very heavy pike infantry. All in all, you're really not paying that much of a pretty penny to use them. I mean, you could do 2 of those low-tier units for the price of 1 Agema pikeman, but you're not going to get the discipline and the benefits of these Agema pikemen. So they have a charge value of 4, their melee offense is at 8, melee defense at 9, their armor value is at 10, which is pretty stinking good, but most of all, their morale is at 15. You're going to have a hard time routing these guys, and especially if you were to get a couple of units that are holding a choke point in like a V formation or something, it's going to be a very long time before they rout. That's crucial. Agema pikemen are really good at holding the line. They inspire their allies, and they are very disciplined, making them an excellent unit to use. Going down to melee infantry. There are quite a few units of melee infantry, which kind of surprised me. The Ptolemaic kingdom seemed, especially in previous games, they kind of seem more spear pike heavy, but it's good to see that we have a wide range of melee infantry that we can use as well. Looks like we have Sidian Hillmen. These guys are actually really not that bad, and they are super cheap. So they have a charge value of 4. Their melee offense is relatively high for such a low tier unit. Their melee offense at 10. Their melee defense is at 8, which still really isn't that bad. Their armor value is pretty low, but their morale at 7 is still a pretty good morale for such a low tier unit. Now they are an area of a recruitment thing, so you will have to be in a specific area to recruit them, but they still would be pretty good at the very minimum, at least some good fodder troops, maybe provide a little bit of shock, meeting the units in battle, and then flanking with your more well-equipped units. Next up, we have Thracian military settlers. These are another group of units that are going to be prevalent throughout some of the factions. Military settlers, they'll just be, they're pretty decent, I'm not going to lie. They have a charge value of 5, which is higher than those Sidian Hillmen. Their melee offense is high. Their melee defense is even higher at 12, which is still really good. Their armor value, while low, is still going to be alright when countered with that melee defense. And they have a morale value of 9, which is, of course, pretty high for such a low-tier melee infantry unit. Next up, we have another set of mercenary Thoracites. These are going to be the melee version rather than the spear version. And again, kind of the same thing. Their melee offense is pretty good. Their melee defense is high. Their armor value is especially high for this kind of a unit. And their morale at 10 makes them a pretty solid defensive unit, as well as a pretty okay offensive unit. Again, holding that line is crucial in ancient empires, and this unit will definitely help. We have paid infantry, which I always thought was a funny thing. I guess others are levies or something of that sort. These guys actually get paid. It works for me. These are heavy melee infantry. Their charge value is not great. Their melee offense is higher than other melee infantry we've seen, but the melee defense is where they really shine at 14. Armor value at 8, which is pretty good, and morale at 8, which is also pretty decent. Now we're into the high-tiered units. We have some royal sword bearers. These guys cap out at 3 units per army. Their charge value is decent, their melee offense is very high, their melee defense is even higher at 15, and while they have low armor, again, that's counteracted by the melee defense, and their morale is high as well. Galatian military settlers. So, of course, these guys are a little weird. They are, of course, strapped in just their undies and a shield and sword, but they have a pretty high charge value. They have a charge value of 6. Their melee offense is not all, considering they are in the higher tier units, melee offense of 11 is not that great. Melee defense is where they really shine, which is a little odd that all these melee infantry have some pretty high melee defense. I would think they'd have more melee offense, but that's just me. The melee defense of 15 is good, and their morale at 10 is quite good as well. Last but not least, we have these two units. We have Ptolemaic. These guys are heavy melee. They have an excellent armor value and excellent morale. These guys are very elite, but the funny thing is, these guys are pretty elite, but they're still not as high as those Roman Empire units, man. Those guys are brutal. These guys have a melee offense of 13, which is very nice. A melee defense of 14. Their armor is huge. Their armor is at 12, and their morale is at 12. These guys are really good. Not only that, they are resistant to heat, which means they will tire less quickly in the desert, which is perfect considering where the Ptolemaic kingdom is. So they're going to be really, really good for the Ptolemaic kingdom, especially, even because I'm assuming these are going to be mid to late game. As long as you conquer that Middle East and Africa, man, you're going to be able to use these guys, and they are not going to tire. They're going to be used very, very well. And then last but not least, we have the late version of the Ptolemaic. These guys are absolutely epic. Melee defense of 17. Melee offense of 13, armor value at 12, and morale at 13. These guys are going to wreck the battlefield. Not much will be able to stop them. Let's go down into our range. We have a few options for range spread across the board. For our bow infantry, we have Ptolemaic archers. These guys have a really high ammunition rating, which means they will have a lot of shots before they finish off. Their ranged offense is not that great. It's only at 2, considering that, again, you're going to have a higher ranged offense the closer you are. Those melee units, if they have a ranged offense, it's, an 8, 9, 10, 11. So these guys have a ranged offense of 2, which isn't that great, but they have such a high ammunition rating and such a good missile range that they're going to be able to pepper those troops for a very long time, providing that hopeful morale debuff slowly over time is just going to be constant. They have no charge value. Their melee offense is poor. Melee defense is poor. Armor value really isn't that high, or isn't that low, all things considered, since they're light bow infantry, and their morale truly isn't that bad either. Up here, though, this is where I really love. I love these guys. I've shown them before. They are going to be mercenaries, so they are going to be seen throughout different factions. Mercenary Cretan archers, they have a high morale rating. They have a good ranged offense of 5, whereas those archers had 2. Their missile range is further. They have a decent charge value considering they're just bowmen. They have a good melee offense, a superb melee defense. Their armor value is decent, and the morale rating is pretty stinking high as well. So definitely a unit that I would put in your troops if you need some good archers. Slingers, we have Judean slingers. These guys have the highest ammunition ranking that you can get. They have an ammunition ranking of 30. The ranged offense really isn't bad at all. It's a ranged offense of 4. So not only do they have a ton of ammo, but it's heavy-duty ammo. Of course, these are rocks or any pieces of pottery. This is pieces of lead. I mean, they're going to do a pretty good work. Their missile range is over twice that of the archers, almost twice that of the Cretan archers. So they're going to be able to pepper troops almost from the start of the battle for a very long time, and it's going to do a lot of damage. Not only that, these Judean slingers have a decently high melee defense and armor value considering they're just light slingers, and they actually have a pretty decent morale as well. These units also ignore terrain, which means any speed penalties from going through the water, going through bushes, going through forests will be ignored by these slingers, which is a very good way to get them around the battlefield quickly. We have mercenary Rhodian slingers. Now, there really isn't a whole lot of difference, and to be honest, I would probably almost choose the Judean slingers. I don't know, these guys are close enough in value that it's not going to be. I would probably go Rhodian slingers, to be honest. They have a high ammunition rating, their ranged offense is higher, their missile range is the same. They do have a slightly higher melee offense, a better armor value, and a little bit better morale. Again, slingers are going to be the way to go. Let's get down here. We have Ptolemaic light infantry. Now, these are going to be light skirmishers. They're all right. Their ranged offense is really high. But again, of course, they're skirmishers, so that makes sense. They have a very low ammunition rating. Their missile range is subpar. They do have a very nice melee defense rating, but aside from that, not too great. Let's move up. We have Carian infantry. These guys are going to be a little better, to be honest. Their ammunition is the same. Their ranged offense is higher. They do have a higher melee offense and defense. Their armor value is at 5. Morale is at 8. They're going to be your pretty good skirmishers if they will hold. And then last but not least, we have some mercenary Cretan Uzoni. Uzoni. These guys they're pretty much the same thing as these previous guys, the carry and infantry, with the exception, I guess, they have lower melee defense but higher melee offense. Their stamina is going to be very good, which is always a positive, but overall I would probably stick with your carrying infantry if you can. Now time for a really cool part. This is going to be our melee cav and artillery, or just cavalry and artillery. There are a lot of troops that we can use for the Ptolemaic Kingdom in this area, and I'm excited to dive into it. Melee cav, we have Makamoi cavalry. These guys are your standard basic melee cav. They have a pretty decent charge value, high melee defense, a good armor value, and good morale. Solid horsemen for what you need to use. Thracian cav, I guess you could say they're better in a sense. They do have a lower charge value. Their melee offense is higher, so that's going to be good for more long-term engagements. Their armor value is much less, but they do have the same morale rating, so it just depends on your preference at that point. Next up, we have paid cav. Now, these paid cav, they're going to have a pretty decent armor value, so they're going to last a while, and they're good melee defense as well, not to mention morale, so they are going to be good for long-term engagements. Those lower melee cav, a little more for hit-and-run tactics per se, definitely not for long-term engagements unless you're just facing some skirmisher cav against you. So again, paid cav, they're going to be your best option for melee. Shot cav, now these guys are pretty sweet. Ptolemaic chariots, I used these guys before. They are pretty stinking sweet. They don't have stats to them just yet, but they do a lot of damage, and I really enjoyed playing with them. But we're going to get down to the stats that we do have. We have Macedonian shot cav. These guys are going to have a superb charge value. Again, they're shot cavalry, so that makes sense. They have a good morale value of 9. Their armor value at 8 is pretty decent. Their melee offense defense are relatively low, so again, shot cav, hit and run, get out of there, turn around, hammer and anvil, rinse and repeat. Katakoi cav, they're just going to be a little better, nothing really too, a higher morale rating, a little bit of better armor. You can only cap all of these guys out at 4, 3 for the Ptolemaic chariots, and again for the Agema. So the Katakoi, very nice, good units, higher morale, their charge value is excellent. Thessalian cav, these guys are going to be really good. Charge value of 17, morale of 10, armor of 9. Again, none of these are going to have good high melee offense or defense because they're shot cav. They're meant to hit and run and get out of there. Last but not least, we have our Agema cav, which is one of our general units. These guys have a charge value of 18. Morale is ridiculously high at 15. Their armor value at 10 is great, and melee offense is just a little bit higher. We're going to roll through these pretty quick because we're rolling on for quite a bit. Mycenaean cav, these are going to be their only bow cav available to Ptolemaic Kingdom. They have a very high ammunition rating. Their ranged offense is actually pretty decent at 4. Their missile range isn't too bad. If they were to get into engagements, they're not going to do that well with melee offense, but their defense will be good. They have a decent armor value, but their morale is high. Now, these guys, like other bow cav, they have Parthian shot, which means they can shoot all around themselves, not just in front. And they can fire while they're moving, which is of course great for hit and run tactics. Skirmisher cav, you have a Libyan cav. These guys are going to be really good up close. They have a low ammunition rate, but their ranged offense is high. Decent missile range, to be honest, and a good melee defense makes them very solid low tier light skirmisher cav, and an armor or a morale rating of 6 really isn't that bad. You get to Judean cav again. There's going to be just a little more buffs, lower melee offense, higher melee defense. Their morale is higher, and so is their armor value. Persis cav, it's going to be a little bit better ranged unit. These are going to be tier 2s. They're going to have better morale. Their armor value isn't as great, but their melee defense is. And then last, we have Mercenary Tarentine Cavalry. Now, these guys are going to kind of be the elitist of the least. They're going to have a higher charge value, higher melee offense and defense. Their armor value, while it may not be it is the same, they're going to have a higher morale, and their ranged offense is going to be heavier. This is where the Ptolemaic Kingdom shines, though. We have 2 sets of war elephants that we can use. Now, these guys don't have a whole lot of stats in terms of up here, but they do have some pretty sweet ones. They have a charge value of 19. Not to mention, there are 18 elephants in this unit, which is a very large amount, to be honest. Charge value of 19, melee offense is at 13, very high melee offense. Melee defense isn't bad, and the morale rating of 10. Now, you are going to pay a pretty penny for elephants, of course. That's 1,200 talents, whatever you want to call it, for one set of African war elephants. and there is a cap of 2 per army. Now, they do scare everyone unless you're immune to fear, and they can run amok, just like in previous Total Wars, in which case you'll have to kill them. But that'll work. Next up, we have armored African elephants. These guys are going to be absolutely massive. They are ranged as well as melee, so they do have a missile range of 70. Their charge value, now that's a range, that's not offense, that's not melee missile offense. Missile range of 70. Their charge value is much higher at 22. Their melee offense is a little better, and their morale set at 12 is definitely going to be better. But again, 2,400 apiece, so you're looking at almost 5,000 talents for, I mean, that's a good almost half of your money in a standard 20 stack on ultra money setting. So depends on what you want to do. And of course, Oxabellas, these are our fixed artillery, and ballista, which are mobile. I've shown these guys before. Alright guys, that was very long, but again, very extensive. And so we are going to hit into the battle. I'm not sure who I'm going to play against yet. It'll be a surprise, but I'll see you on the battlefield. Alright everybody, let's get right on into it. This is gonna be an epic battle. I'm very excited to play it. We are playing again, obviously, as the Ptolemaic Kingdom. We are playing against Carthage. Now this is a little bit of a stretch, but not completely implausible. So, let's get right down into the army comps per usual, and we'll hit right into the battle. Holding my main line, I'm trying out a different strategy, by the way. So, holding my main line, we have 3 units of Agema pikemen. Again, I love that shot right there. Is just gorgeous. I'm going to turn on the graphics mod real quick and take a couple of snapshots like that. Just absolutely gorgeous. Alright, so we have 3 units holding our main line together. These guys are going to hold the line pretty well. Again, a different strategy. Usually I do my bowed formation where it makes a concave, right, or convex. Makes a shield, basically. And so we're going to try a different way. We're going to do a reverse, much like the Battle of Cannae, which is ironic because we're actually playing against Carthage. I didn't really think about that till just now. Anywho's, so we have our Agema pikemen sitting here on the front line, technically the back line. Over here on both my right and left flanks, I have the same setup here. I have a unit of Royal Sword Bears. Say hello, Sword Bears. Hi. These guys just look really, really good as well. Really, really solid looking troops. There we go. And then we have a unit of, so we have our Royal Sword Bears. We have our unit of Mercenary Thoracitai. We're doing a mashup, basically, of the different types of troops all together. So we have our Mercenary Thoracitai in the middle, and then on the outside we have some picked Macamoi, which do look very reminiscent of the Romans, but they are very different. They obviously have that Egyptian look to them. Just really, really cool. So that's on both flanks. Sitting behind my Agema pikemen are just leftover Mercenary Thoracitai and some Royal Sword Bears. These guys are going to be my reserve. Now in front we have my Mercenary Balearic Slingers, Rhodian Slingers, excuse me. These guys are looking pretty sweet. And as you can see, their range extends all the way to out here. So they are going to be able to see and kill people from the very, very get-go. Behind my pikemen, I have 3 units of Mercenary Cretan Archers. These guys look very nice as well. I'm liking them a lot. Behind them, I have my General, which I usually forget until the very end. We have a Agema Cav. I figured that would be the best solution since that's what I recommended myself. And then we'll get over into the Cav setup because I am very excited for this as well. I have 3 units of Paid Cavalry. These are our melee Cavs, so they're going to get into the engagement, hopefully be able to hold out a decent long time, maybe until reinforcements come, or until we can do some more flanking over there. In the middle, I have my Shock Cav. These guys, I'm going to wait until the opportune moment to really put them into battle. These are Thessalian Cav, and they do look rather gorgeous with those long spears. I do have 3 units of chariots. I couldn't resist, even if they are unbalanced and slightly OP at the moment, if that's even true. These Ptolemaic chariots are going to look absolutely amazing getting in that battlefield. Look at that. They got a freaking spear sticking out between the horses. What the crap. And they do, of course, have the scythe blades. On the sides, these guys are armed to the teeth. Do not mess with them. And then last but not least, I course, could not help but add some armored African elephants. These tier 3 very heavy elephants, they're going to be amazing. I can't wait to use them. Alright, so we are playing against Carthaginians as a big, huge mashup. I think I have, almost 30 units maybe. They have all 40. We are numbered 6,200 to 3,400, so just under 10,000 units in this battle. Let's hit that play button. Alright, so they're going to come at me. And there might be a little bit of lag, but I'm not seeing a whole lot. A little glitching here now and then. I am going to kind of focus. Oh, I do also have the dust mod. Oh, yes, I forgot about this. Or maybe. I may not. I think I do, though. It's possible, but it may not be. Regardless, this is looking sweet with this dust kicking things up. It is a relatively new thing that I have added thanks to one of the developers. Let's keep rolling. All right, you know what? We're gonna hold on for just a little bit and really let them come at us while I decide what I'm going to do exactly, because there are a lot of troops in here and we have a mix of everything. They have a whole bunch of skirmishers. Oh my. I did not make this. I forgot to remake this. So this could be a very interesting battle. I very well could lose. The Carthaginians, just as an FYI, their units are very, very cheap to recruit. And as such, they are able to hire all 40 units and still have a ton left over for veterancy. So we could very well lose this battle, but that's alright. Here we go. Our slingers are already getting into it. And yeah, we may have to go on the offensive here. With that realization that the army is computer generated rather than me picking out stuff. So let's go ahead and start getting that way. Yeah, we're not going to win those cav engagements. Get back. Get back. We're going to use our reinforcements. Pew pew the enemy. Pew pew them. There we go. There we go. Get into that engagement. We're going to bring our shock cav into here. What's it look like on this flank? It's actually not looking too bad. Let's get those chariots over. Those skirmisher cav, they're going to wreck us. Let's get these guys on the outside there. We're dragging our troops up. And we're going to get some good close-ups once we get into this battle. Because there are some new animations. Now, I don't know exactly what that entails. But nonetheless, we will hopefully get to see some good animations in this battle. Whoa, hey there, what's up? And it looks like the Sacred Band have engaged our armored elephants and have already absolutely wrecked them. Of course, they are double chevroned. Good. Here, we can't afford to lose that engagement. And here we go. We have a rather massive battle on our hands that is about to ensue. Here we go. Slow-mo is what a lot of people have been asking for. Really getting those animations in. Oh, there we go. Oh, look at that. Throwing their ranged unit. Oh, we saw. Oh, look at that. Oh, bounced off. Not quite. Holding that whole line. Doing very well doing so. But, I mean, look at the scale. That's what always boggles my mind with this mod, is just the absolute scale of these battles. It is ridiculous. Let's go ahead and get our melee troops in here. These are our shot cav, excuse me. Oh no, these are our chariots. Never mind. Durs. We are routing these troops over here pretty efficiently. Let me get my shot cav in and out. Let's just take a slow little look at all of these engagements. I'm going to slow down the camera a lot. It's just absolutely massive. Really enjoying this mod and all the animations that go with it. Got a dude out on his own. We got a few guys out on their own. Oh, that was nice. We got some close-ups here that we could probably get. Very nice animations that we've got going on here. I'm actually going to hit play so we can see those up close. Now, of course, we are going to experience some lag once we get into the battle. That's just a given. We're going to hit. You guys are going to like this a lot. The men are broken. Not broken. Oh wow, all of our melee cav have gone. I have not been paying attention. Almost all of our melee cav. We've got some guys out there. Let's go ahead and hit these guys up. And I missed this charge. No, I didn't. You guys want an epic charge here. How about some scythe Ptolemaic chariots running through some skirmishers? This should be an absolutely destructive charge. Should just carve them all up. There should not be a single person that makes it out alive from that charge. Look at all of the death. Just slices them up like it's nothing. Carve through those Numidian cav. Actually, you're going to make a death charge into the back there. We're going to carve these dudes up. I'm also going to bring my cav up here. Shock cav need to get out. Yeah, like I said, we will not win this battle. But that's okay. I don't mind one bit. Get those scythe chariots to just carve up these troops. Going in for a death charge. They're just going to slice through the enemy. They're just going to carve them up. Hitting into the backs. Look at that. Look at that. So much death. So much death going on. Let's go ahead and hit this flank. We're going to do a major morale debuff here. It's going to cause all those units to rout. Being hit from behind is not going to help at all. We have a chance at winning this, actually. There we go. Their whole center column has broken. Let's get out of there. Our men are running. Well, of course they are. We've lost all of our chariots. We only have a unit of shock cav left. And then, of course, our general's unit. Let's go ahead and get that general's unit all the way around. Those Ptolemaic chariots, they're actually probably going to carve up our own units, which is not a good thing. Looks like our royal sword bearers are routing. Mercenary Celtic warband are tearing them up. Let's get our cav over here. Okay, you cannot tell me that a unit of a Gema cav will not tear up some Numidian javelin men. There we go. Let's hit these guys in the back. Actually, let's go ahead and hit these guys in the back. They need our help the most on this flank. Let's get our Cretan archers to get back just a little bit. Let's just get them back to here. Both of my slingers are still alive. Let's draw a new line over there. We're going to hit those dudes in the back. Their skirmisher general is routing. Skirmisher cav. Now, fatigue play and morale play a different role at the moment. They have been tweaked, per se. Now, again, now fatigue plays a much larger role in this as well. So you definitely don't want fatigued units fighting, and you certainly don't want them to get hit from behind, because that's almost a guaranteed rout. I mean, with this, let's see what this charge does to the morale rating of this Sacred Band. Now, Sacred Band are going to be some of the most elite units in this game, I feel. So seeing them hit behind, the morale actually went up, which is kind of crazy. Then the morale is suddenly at 4. Now it's at 0. Yeah, there we go. We should see a pretty good change in the turn of the battle. There we go. Let's get these guys to flank. Let's get these guys over here and rested. I pressed a button. I don't know what I pressed that made all my units go away. You, it appears, does that. Let's get back and do another charge. We're going to get some Agima Cav to come up here, and it looks like we will win this engagement. Hit those Sacred Band in the back. And they are routing as well. That is the end of the battle. That was much closer than usual. Let's hit in battle. Heroic victory. Whew. So we still lost a good third of our army. Actually, fourth of our army, I guess. Yeah, overall we did pretty stinking well. These unit of Ptolemaic chariots did some major work. Again, they're a little overpowered, haven't been balanced yet because they don't have real stats. Our Agima pikemen held the line very well, were able to get some good kills, and even with all of these tiers, again, experience ranking kind of makes it imbalanced, but I don't know if that makes it imbalanced in favor for the people with the rank or not. I don't really know. But yeah, overall, still a really good battle, really showing off the Ptolemaic kingdom and things that they can do, as well as the new morale routing system. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the Ptolemaic kingdom. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, if you feel like the need to support my channel and things other than views, there are things you can do. You can turn ad block off. That way you see all ads on my channel. That will support me. I also have a Patreon account, so if you would like to go visit the Patreon account and see some reward tiers, and or shoot me a message and say what you would like in some reward tiers, I am more than happy to tweak it to whatever caters to you guys. Again, I do not demand it or beg for it, but I will always appreciate it. Alright guys, be on the lookout for some more videos. I will try to get these out faster, as well as focusing on more of the major factions, as well as the minor factions. Other than that, this is Havoc, and I'm out of here. Peace!